In the aftermath of the Trypticon's rampage, Cybertron is experiencing of the anticipation of the Autobot and Decepticon war. At Macadam's old oil house, Hot Rod, fresh out of the Autobot Academy, tries and fails to convince an acquaintance that Optimus Prime and his government aren't just as bad as the ones that came before. The freshly minted Autobot encounters an old friend, Slinger, his co-conspirator from his days as an insurgent in Nyan. Hot Rod's old friend has never forgiven him for killing the city's inhabitants to prevent them from being drained by the vampiric ribbons, and has joined up with the Decepticons, declaring that his new comrades are the real power on Cybertron. Slinger leaves his former ally with a warning to watch his back. In Cybertron's polar region, Optimus Prime and Ironhide scale the Grave Harryon Glacier, the Autobot leader taking a sabbatical to clear his mind after the recent battle. Ironhide nearly slips from the icy cliffs, but eventually the duo reach its summit. Against the odds though, they are not alone on this horizon. Ironhide spies a large object with a significant energized signature. In Metroplex in the deep heart of Iacon, Cup and Ultra Magnus anxiously await the completion of Ratchet's operation upon Grimlock. Arriving late, Hot Rod learns that Grimlock was the last of the Dinobots to receive his treatment. Emerging from the operation theater, and reveals he managed to restore the Dinobots' original alternate modes, bringing them up to the same fighting shape that they were before they served in the Primal Vanguard. Upon meeting him, Hot Rod voices his admiration towards the Dinobots, knowing of them the tales of the Primal Vanguard glory days. Grimlock rebukes him, saying that the recruits fresh from the Academy will have to earn his respect, or even simply earn his trust. In the ruins of Hammerex, a fully repaired Megatron waxes locations over the form of Trypticon, calling upon the stolen spark of Pentius. Megatron manages to rouse the gigantic beast, only to find out it bears the consciousness of the slain Quintessons. However, he finds his former guide and his new purpose within the engine of destruction. Optimus and Ironhide approach a methodical structure, only to find the source of the Energon signature that they've detected. As they near the structure, they find it to be the form of an Omega Sentinel. Megatron is skeptical of Trypticon, knowing the treasury of Pentius was capable of. Trypticon confesses that his memories of the confusing tangle, of which the uncertain of the source. Trypticon shows Megatron what he recalls. Cybertron desolating after the Battle of the Gods. Another world broken. The Quintessons, and the death and destruction that they had brought in others. For while his ruthlessness is known, the sheer depths of such evil is not something he can stand. Trypticon assures him that he will understand in time. Hailing the Omega Sentinel, Optimus discovers that he stood in vital silence of the disappearance of Nova Prime. The Sentinel turns Optimus and Ironhide away, saying he awaits the return of the Prime. Optimus reveals that he bears the matrix of leadership, and the Sentinel reacts with disbelief and despair. Regardless, he's prepared to serve the young Prime and ferry him back to the civilization. As the Autobot boards the alternate mode, the Sentinel reveals his name to be the Legend Omega Supreme. Back in Hammerex, Megatron musters the Decepticons around Trypticon. He announces to them that he wishes to prepare for an all-out assault, but due to Scorponok's many abandonment to the Decepticon cause, he says that they will be leaving Cybertron with Trypticon in order to regather the Decepticon army. In the orbit above Cybertron, Trypticon's alternate mode is revealed as a massive space-borne fortress, with Shockwave reports to Megatron that his navigation preparations are complete, and Decepticons take it to the stars. On the jungle world of Canis Tor, Predacons, Razorclaw, and Rampage are engaged in the battle with each other. The Predacons have hunted all life on the planet into extinction, and now find themselves stranded there and turning on one another. The appearance of Astro Train in the skies above stops them before Diebob meets his end. From within the Shuttlebot, Starscream appears and invites the Predacons back to the Decepticons with the news that Megatron has returned. Meanwhile, on Cybertron, Optimus and Alpha Trion confer their discoveries of Omega Supreme, who now stands guard over Optimus' quarters in Metroplex City. Trion is happy to see the ancient bot return, but warns Optimus, concerned over Omega's continued alphaness, that it may take the giant Sentinel millions of years to shake off the effects of the isolation. On the world known as Processium, the Combaticons prepare to raid an old cave on Cybertron's weapons, considered so dangerous, Nominus Prime, that they were stored off the other worlds. When they access the codes acquired by Swindle, and they realize they failed to work, the other Combaticons are about to turn on him, with the garrison doors suddenly open, revealing Starscream and the Predacons. Deep in space, aboard Trypticon, Soundwaves updates Megatron on the continued reconsolidation of the Decepticon forces. Soundwave is hesitant about visiting the final planet on Megatron's list of the targeted worlds, but Megatron refused to have his judgment questioned. Trypticon soon sets out down the living hell that is Junkion. The native Junkions gather around the city's ships, but are immediately crowded with Megatron emerging in orders to submit on his ways and ready the warship to join his armies. On Cybertron, Optimus Prime is meeting with Bumblebee, Hot Rod, Grimlock, and Bolthead in response to the appearance of the huge object and the long-range space scanners. Prime hopes that the ship carrying returning the Cybertronians who left during the Exodus, but soon he realizes that it's Trypticon. Bulkhead refutes the notion of shooting it down, as it would so rain devastation debris on the planet, while Grimlock and Hot Rod are quick to deduce Megatron's goal, to drop Trypticon directly on the top of Metroplex from the orbit. In response, Prime orders the city evacuated and gives a command for Metroplex to transform. No sooner than the Titan assumed his robot mode, Trypticon comes crashing out from the sky, plunging into Metroplex and tackling him on the ground. The Titan topples Metroplex and greets Metroplex like an old friend. Metroplex is toppled but strikes back, grabbing a building and lashing out on Trypticon with it. The reptilian giant falls, but tries to swipe Metroplex with his tail. Metroplex blasts off his tail. The two giants grapple hand to hand, and though Trypticon's claws are sharper, Metroplex then curb stops Trypticon, his jaw shattering with a fiery explosion. Trypticon weakly congratulates Metroplex on his victory, but reveals that the mercenary was merely a distraction, at which point the Decepticon ship plunges out of the orbit, spearing Metroplex through the chest and taking him offline. With the two Titans down, the Autobots roll out in preparation for an attack. The Junkions were the first two waves to spill off the ship and quickly swarm the outnumbered Autobots. The bad news continues to pour in forms of the reports that Jetfire and Perceptor, who inform Optimus Prime that the junk ship has pierced not only through Metroplex's hide, but also the layers of Iacon itself, rapturing the city's primary coolant plants. Even as the scientists speak out their warnings, the coolant comes from flooding of the city sentry, creating not only a small ocean around the Autobots, but acid rain as well. As it vapors interacts with the iron-changed atmosphere, Megatron and his forces watch the Sharkticons brought from Junkion and set them loose in the coolant waters. The Decepticon leader contacts to watch Prime's forces be whittled down. Hot Rod fears that they will be overwhelmed and Grimlock mocks him, but Optimus silences them both. Unlike the Decepticons, the Autobots fight for each other. Eventually the Autobots wear the Sharkticons down, but the Decepticons themselves begin moving for an all-out attack, seeking out his former pit fighter, Grimlock, in pursuit of a rematch. Caught up in the battle, Grimlock and the Dinobots are separated from the Autobots as the Decepticon squad starts closing all around them. But Optimus cannot split the forces without allowing the Decepticons to overrun the strong point. Instead, he calls Omega Supreme into action, but the giant falters, racked with guilt. He admits that he lied to Optimus. When the Autobot leader found him, he was not waiting for Nova Prime to return of loyalty. He was waiting to destroy him, considering him a disgrace to the Prime whose name he took. But in Optimus, Omega sees greatness. Omega finds that the Decepticons remind him exactly of Nova Prime, and agrees to join the fight. At last the decision comes, as Megatron has prepared for the Ancient Sentinel, and orders multiple squads position Decepticons to open fire on him. Assaulted by the immoderate amount of firepower, Omega falls, with a strange laughter that only Megatron can hear, echoing within his mind of his own voice, Pentius, the Quintesson who sparked Megatron's use for power of Trypticon, but whose consciousness still lurks within the dark reaches of Megatron's own thoughts. An image of the Quintesson's face appears with the flame of the rage around Trypticon's fallen form, and Pentius declares that through Megatron, he will devour Cybertron itself. The vision of Pentius he had just witnessed leaves Megatron disoriented as the Decepticons' aerial forces bombard the Autobots' commanded position. But soon, the villains' tactics start working against them. The atmospheric alteration brought on by the acid rain that they previously unleashed to the stars to affect the Decepticon systems begin dropping out of the sky. Once on the ground, they are met in the battle by fighting mad Autobots, joined at last by Omega Supreme. Megatron makes for Trypticon's fallen body, hoping to transfer Pentius' spark out of the giant before the Quintessons restore him. In order to save Cybertron from being consumed by the beast, before departing, he gives Soundwave one last order. If it fails, burn Iacon to the ground to spare its fate. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Hot Rod comes against Onslaught, but is saved by his old friend, Slinger, who now sees the error he made of joining in with the Decepticon forces. Then Slinger is ripped limb for limb in the surprising attack by the Predacons, leaving Hot Rod to face them all alone. Fortunately, help soon arrives for the young Autobot, having slain his old foe, Blackwall, by stabbing him through the head with the fire sword. Grimlock rallies the Dinobots and brings them to Hot Rod's aid. Hot Rod and Grimlock take Razor Claw together, and Grimlock shatters the Predacon leader's jaw by pulling them apart with his bare hands. Megatron easily fights his way through the Autobots unit as the base of Trypticon, when he's faced with Bumblebee, who could see the fear in Megatron's eyes. Though impressed with the little bot's courage and precipitation, Megatron impales him on the debris that he carries him on the way. Optimus Prime spots the old enemy and heads after him. Motor Master tries to bear in his way, but the two charge at each other in vehicle mode. Optimus proves himself king of the road, barreling through the Stunticon leaders and hurling him aside. Omega Supreme deals with the rest of the Stunticons, preventing the form of interfacing with Optimus's mission, and the leader of the Autobots soon catches up with Megatron on top the fallen Trypticon's head. As the pair engage in combat and energy weapons, Megatron quickly warns Optimus of the threat possessed by the Quintessons, and tries to guide the Prime into killing him, seeing it is the only way to destroy Pentius. The essence of the spark remains fused with his own. Before he can revive Trypticon, realizing what Megatron is trying to force him to do, Optimus offers help to find a way to destroy the evil presence, but Megatron believes it is impossible without his death. Optimus refuses to accept this, and unleashes the full power of the Matrix of Leadership. Its burden white success error dictates Pentius, but Megatron expresses no gratitude, vowing instead that he will never stop hating Optimus despite what he has done for him. Then the Prime knocks the weakened Megatron out with a single punch. Moments later, Optimus Prime addresses the Autobots and Decepticons via a huge hologram broadcast, announcing Megatron's defeat, calling for an end to the fighting and vowing the Decepticons will face justice. Megatron is subsequently imprisoned, and Optimus Prime is dedicated to the Autobot cause is left stronger than ever.